everyone, it's Silvia. Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a very painful video for me because I'm going to do a VR today and it's called the 12 Decks Tag by Feeding My Soul 1212. Now, this tag wants me to choose 12 decks out of my 600 and that's basically 2%. That is 2%. I mean, I have a little bit more than 600, but it's basically 2%. So it is incredibly hard. It is incredibly hard to choose 12 decks out of 600. And generally speaking, whenever I do a video like my top 10 tarot and oracle decks for readings, or my top 10 hot decks, or my top 10 scary decks, and so on and so forth, that is different because it feels like I know that I have this mountain of decks and I just choose the top 10. And yeah, it's difficult, of course, but when it's decks that have prompts like this tag, like that, like this video, it really wants you to narrow it down as much as possible and choose, for example, the first prompt is this one: 3 decks you felt called to use as soon as you received them and why. And I have to say, I definitely have more than 3, but it's also because going back in time, I honestly don't remember, like when I bought the Voyager Tarot, we're talking about decades ago. When I bought my first Marseille, I bought it decades ago. So did I feel compelled to use deck as soon as I bought it? Probably. So, you know, my memory can only stretch so far. So necessarily, today we're going to see decks that I bought in the last 2-3 years maximum. It's going to be fun anyway, it's going to be fun. But it was really, really hard. So let's have a look. So the first prompt, as I said, is 3 decks you felt called to use as soon as you received them and why. I want to start with this one here, and let me just zoom in because otherwise we cannot see the cards properly. So this is the Wayseeker's Tarot. The artwork is by NDR and it's been written by Anna Jajewski. I know that I'm butchering the name, but in any case, this is how it's spelled here. This deck, can I be completely honest with you guys? I only bought this deck because it was in super offer. It was super discounted. I believe I spent 15 Australian dollars on it, which is basically 8.5 US dollars. And it's new, obviously, it's legitimate. It came to me, and the only reason why it was on offer was because I believe it was on Amazon Prime Day or something like that. Or, you know, sometimes they have, if you go into today's deal, sometimes, and then type tarot or oracle decks, some decks are really heavily discounted. So it was discounted, and that's the only reason why I bought it. However, when I saw it, and let me just show you, this deck is a fantastic reader, really a fantastic reader. But I wouldn't have known, obviously, when I first got it. I felt like I was immediately called to use it, not because I knew that it would have been a fantastic reader, but because I just felt something. I looked at the cards, which is something that I always do, of course, whenever I acquire a new deck. I open the deck, unless it's let's say a second copy of a deck that I'm collecting, then I wouldn't be opening that. But, you know, this is a mass market deck, I believe, from US Games, yes. And it's from last year, so last year in the US, so probably being released this year in Australia. In any case, I got it something like 6 months ago. And I was going through the cards and I was thinking to myself, I actually really like this deck. The vibes that it's giving me are very, very powerful. This is an amazing deck and I just could not stop loving what I was seeing. And yes, I mean, of course, there's a few points that, generally speaking, would be a bit of a deal breaker for me. The fact that, for example, the minors they can look a little bit peepish. However, they are in their own way illustrated in a very let's say, symbolical way rather than a very rich way. So if you can see, for example, this is the Six of Pentacles, and yes, you get the meaning of the card straight away. And technically speaking, that's all you need to see. I mean, you need to see the hands, right? The money, the coins going from one hand to the other. And also I like that there is a scale here, there's stuff on the scale, etc. So it does give you the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the concept of the card if you're not an expert or an intermediate tarot reader. And I would say that I actually recommend this deck for to beginners because it's very on point and it really tells you the story behind the card. The Four of Pentacles, for example, it's a really beautiful card. There is a lock here, you know, because you're closing this chest, you're locking it with all of the stuff that you possess and that it's really important for you, and you really don't want to lose it, and you keep it close to your chest, but at the same time you understand that sooner or later it will slip away, unfortunately, because, you know, when there's consolidation, at the end, unfortunately, it does turn into stagnation and then loss. So you can see the background of the card, you can understand it, and you see the future of the card. So I really think that it's a fantastic deck. It's a fantastic reader. And there's something else. And now, of course, as always, whenever I'm looking for one specific card, because of Murphy's Law, that would be the one card that either I've already passed in the deck or it's at the bottom. So let me just go straight to the bottom. No, it's not here. So let me just, there you go. I found it. So this is the Devil card. So I don't know if you guys remember, but there was for a couple of months, even 3 months, I believe, back in, let's say, March, April, May, I was stalked by the Devil card. I was stalked by the Devil card. It was just constantly coming up in readings for me. Whenever it was a 1 card pull, 3 card pull, Celtic cross, doesn't matter. It was literally stalking me. And I just really did not understand why. I know what that means. I'm actually, ironically, the month of August has been dedicated for my Starlight members to the study of the Devil card as related to 2 main keywords as, you know, the body image and also, let's say, the sense of shame and the self-criticism that we can feel about ourselves. And I was working on that concept, but it wasn't really resonating for me. So I was moving on to different meaning of or different keywords associated with the Devil card. And then I finally got this deck. Halfway through my stalking experience with the Devil, I got this deck and I immediately felt it. I immediately felt it because this, to me, is the, let's say, a very beautiful representation of the Daredevil. And I'm talking about the TV show, but also the comic book. The TV show, I believe that was back in March or April that they restarted the Daredevil, the TV show, on Netflix now. And it's called the Daredevil Reborn, or Born Again, Born Again. And it's just, my goodness, that show, there's a scene in the very first episode where, you know, the Kingpin of New York, and played by Vincent D'Onofrio, by the way, fantastic, and Charlie Cox, that plays Matt Murdock / Daredevil, they're sitting at a diner, and there's the body language of both of them. One is, you know, imposing. There's this gravity that goes with the character played by Vincent D'Onofrio, and the other one is almost retreating. It's just absolutely fantastic, and it gave me this idea because this one really looks like the Daredevil, you know, dressed in red, and this could be the skyline of New York, and it just gave me this idea about knowing that sometimes there are such things as necessary evils. And, you know, and this card literally wanted me to try and understand that and see how that would resonate with me. And suddenly I found a way to relate to this stalking card that I had. And then ironically, after I did this kind of work with the Devil card with that perspective in mind, after a couple of weeks, it just stopped stalking me. So I think that I actually, you know, I went to the point in which I had done enough work with it. But I absolutely love this deck. I highly recommend it. As I said, excellent reader. excellent tarot deck for a beginner because it really, it doesn't distract you. It really goes straight to the point. So, it's always really good for a beginner. And as I said, 15 Australian dollars I paid for it. So I'm really happy that I got a deck like that I like so much. Another one is this one. So this is an indie deck. It's called the I Am Not a Doll tarot deck. This is the name of the author. Again, I'm not even trying to pronounce it. My apologies for that. I generally speaking try to understand how to pronounce all of the names. But there is one language that I believe that this person is Thai. And that is one language that I really struggle with. I know the basics, but that's it. Even though I've been to Thailand about 23 times. So I know. I just know the basics. Anyway, so this is by the Stray Cat Studio. If you are not familiar with it, the Stray Cat Studio has been publishing the Stray Cat Tarot, but also the Luna Lapin. And you can find, generally speaking, these decks, you can actually find them on the Tevada website. Now, I have bought several decks out of Tevada. I have never had any problems. So in my experience, they're not only legit, but they're actually really good. They have a really good customer service. They have really good offers. So it's always worth checking them out. However, this deck, I actually found it at the Tokyo Tarot Museum. So when I saw it, I immediately grabbed it because it was one of the decks that it was in my wish list. It had been for a while. And I have to say, I felt like using this deck straight away because this one is one of those decks that feels like it grows on you. It's one of those decks that really demands your attention, and when you do finally give the attention it deserves, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities. It does come with this certificate of authenticity, as you can see here, and let me just show you. So this is also, as you can see, it's got a really nice kind of glittering kind of silver edging. And a very nice cardstock, by the way. It's one of my favorites. It's, it's matte, but it's very smooth to the touch. So the tactile experience is also good. So the concept around this deck is this, that we don't have to behave like everyone else tells us to. There was this idea, and I think that belonged to that generation in which girls, when we grow up, we were still told that we needed to behave, we needed to look a certain way, this is the star card, absolutely gorgeous. We needed to respond to a certain necessity. Society needs girls to behave in a certain way. Society needs girls and women, obviously, to fulfill a certain number of duties and then stop. Once you're done what you needed to do, just stop. You don't have to go beyond. Look at the death card, and I never liked that. I never found myself fulfilled. I never found that I was happy to do whatever I was supposed to do, or look the way that I was supposed to look, and then just not aspire for something else, aspire at becoming something more. So I always was at odds. I love the strength card. I mean, look and how beautiful, the sense of abandonment, that it's here and you can feel it, and there's this sense also of creating a bond. But what I love is this sense of closing your eyes, because you just trust that it's okay for now to let someone else catch you if you're falling. I just really love this concept. So as I was saying, I was never really happy with that idea. Look at the Tower card, amazing. And I always felt that it was, it was asking me to be something less than what I could have been. And I don't mean to say that I was arrogant when I was a kid and I thought I could be a princess, or I could be a singer, or I could be a writer, etc. Of course, everyone has got dreams. And I believe that parents, but not just parents, educators and society in general should never stops a girl from dreaming simply because they believe that she should grow up to be, the respectable, the doll, basically a doll. You know, they put you there on the shelf, you just behave, you say that you look pretty because you need to look pretty, but that's it. I never accepted that. I never liked it. Somehow I could feel that there was something wrong with that, but at the same time, I didn't really understand what I wanted to be. Because, you know, it was enough. It took all of my energy. It took all I got to just rebel to the idea of having to look in a certain way, behave in a certain way, be a certain type of person. It took all I got, so I didn't have any energy left to try and you know, make my dreams come true. Until, you know, luckily enough, I was allowed to study overseas, and that opened my mind, obviously, you know, and obviously I was really lucky to be able to do so. And I think that girls and boys nowadays, but it's mostly, in the past it was mostly about women, you know, the female idea of this person that doesn't cause any trouble, that doesn't require too much attention, that is very important because they make everything you know, go smoothly in the house, etc. But it's almost as if it was functional, this idea of women functional to society rather than being protagonists of our lives. And I love the idea that these characters are, at the end of the day, they are dolls, because as you can see here, I don't know if you can see here, these are not knees, these are, you know, joints, whatever they're called, to put together the limbs of a doll. But at the same time, you see that this so-called doll has a life. They've come to life, they have a life, they do whatever it is that they want to do. They make mistakes because, of course, they make mistakes, or, you know, they have some victories to celebrate, some good memories to make. They're part of a team. They live and they go through all of this. And it's just, it goes to show that I believe that no matter where you come from, you can always have this potential developed. The potential that you have within yourself, it can be developed. Obviously, you know, some of us are lucky, some of us are not. But I really love the idea behind the creation of this deck. So I felt immediately like using it because I had this deck on my wish list forever. And because of that, I really wanted to see the cards as well, because I really do believe that they are beautiful. Another deck that I felt like using immediately is this one here. And I need to zoom out, maybe not, just a little bit. This is the Westwood Tarot by Yasmin Westwood. And so it has been written by Calliope. This has been published by Red Feather, and it's a big chunky book-like box with the magnetic closure. And it does come with an amazing book, by the way. I really had a fantastic time reading this book. I really liked it, and I appreciate the fact that there's so much here. For example, the Page of Cups. As you can see here, just to give you one example, you not only have this kind of a quote or an affirmation related to the card, and you got keywords and concepts for light, which means when you read it in upright, and shadow for reverse readings, and then the scene. So it talks about the card itself and the images that you see on the card. And you know, it really is beautiful because it's basically a story. It's a fairy tale. I'm not entirely sure, but I haven't found any well-known fairy tale. I believe that these are either lesser known fairy tales, or they are tales that are being told or created by the writer. But they're always very poignant and very beautiful. And then it tells you how to read the card in different kinds of, according to different kinds of questions. So for example, you got how to read the Page of Cups in love. So this one is caught in the abyss of your emotions, where everything has to be felt so deeply. Open your heart to whispers of love. Embrace the innocence and vulnerability of new connections as love's sweet melody begins its enchanting serenade. And then in a career reading, in wellness or for finances, then it tells you the astrological sign of the Page of Cups. And then the words of wisdom from the Page of Cups: start romanticizing your life, for relying on others to fill your cup leads to perpetual disappointment. And then you got the spirit guide as referred to the animal that you actually see on the card. In this case is the polar bear. The polar bear brings the gift of blending in with your surroundings in order to gain insight and uncover things hidden in plain sight. And then it tells you what happens or how you should read it when it comes up in a reading. And when the polar bear shows up, this fierce and powerful animal is relentless in guiding you through life's harshest moments. And then at the end, it does also have a quote. This one is from Abraham Hicks. Unconditional love says, I'm going to love because I am a lover, not because you are lovable. I love this guidebook. I really love it. When I saw this deck, I was a bit hesitant because this is not exactly what you would call my aesthetics. But then again, I mean, I have been showing you and myself that I change quite often my taste. I don't know if that makes sense. And so I allow myself to actually fall in love with different styles, because it's not, I don't want a collection of 600 decks that look all the same. You know what I mean? I want something different. I also want something that challenges me. And so challenging, it's not always coming from the symbols chosen by the tarot creator. Sometimes it's chosen in the choice of a certain type of art style. So I'm okay with trying new stuff. It doesn't always work, and if it doesn't work out, then of course I can rehome the deck. It's really not a big deal. Really, this steampunk kind of fantasy world with these animals, I just love it so much. There's just one thing that I have to say. It does look like, even, I don't know if you can see it already. Yeah, you can probably see it already here. The gilding gets damaged immediately. Like it's true that I use this deck quite often. I also did a whole number of readings for my members with this deck. But I will have to say this type of gilding is not the best quality. It looks very nice, absolutely, but it started getting damaged and chipped even after maybe 3 or 4 times that I was using the deck, which is, you know, it leaves you with a bit of a bitter kind of feeling, but it's okay. It's not a deal breaker, absolutely not. Orangutan with a hangman, really love it. I just love to get lost in the cards and the symbols that I can find here and try and associate my knowledge of the card itself with the symbols presented. Loving the devil card called the Shadow with the black cat and red horns. Absolutely adore it. So I really love using this deck, and I'm so very grateful that I decided to get it, because normally I wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been in my radar. I just saw it once on the shelves of the Kinokuniya in Sydney, and it was open as a sample deck, and so I went through the cards and I actually kind of loved it at first sight. So the Westwood Tarot, absolutely beautiful. So the next prompt is 3 decks in your collection that you never felt called to use, and why. And I know I'm gonna there's going to be a lot of eyebrows going to rise up and a lot of people clutching their pearls, but I'm just gonna start with the least obvious one, or the least, let me start with the least controversial one. Let's put it this way, because okay, so this is the Spirit Box Voodoo Tarot. Let me just zoom out, and it's a really beautiful deck by Fabio Listrani. Now, you guys know that I absolutely love the Santa Muerte Tarot, also by Lo Scarabeo, also by Fabio Listrani, the Goetzia, the Notoria. I don't have those decks, but I really like them. My Goetzia and Notoria for me are the True Black and the FMV Tarot by Arthur Wang. But I get it, I really like it, they're beautiful. The Santa Muerte is one of my favorites. And when I saw that Fabio was working and was releasing, last year, I believe it was in October, the Voodoo Tarot Spirit Box, I immediately jumped on it. I actually ordered it from Lo Scarabeo in Italy, so I had to pay like 50 euros, not even dollars Australian, 50 euros for the expedition, so it was really painful. However, and I love the layout. I mean, look at the box, it's so beautiful. Look at all the symbols here. Loving the guidebook as well. Really interesting, really cool. Loving the fact that it's also, you know, you've got all of these massive pages with full colors. And when it comes to the cards, I would have loved to have a little bit more writing here for me to try and understand what I was looking at. There is the same amount of information whether it's a major or a minor arcana, as you can see here. It doesn't mean that let's put it this way. The reason why I do not feel called to use this deck is not because there's not enough information on the cards, on the guidebook. It's a bit of a combination of things, and I would just explain also what I mean with that. Because when you go and look at the actual deck, it's this one here. For me, this is paper. This is paper for me. It feels like, I'm just gonna show you with these two intro cards. It's a great bounce, but there's a reason why it's a great bounce is because it feels like I can actually damage the card. I don't want to damage the card, and I don't even want to try, so perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps it feels very papery because there's a special chemical applied to the paper, and it's not obviously, it doesn't feel like it's laminated, or maybe the lamination itself feels papery. But I have to say, every time I touch these cards, to me, they feel like I can bend them and it will stay bent. So I am terrified of using it. And again, that in and by itself is not the reason why, look, these are really beautiful bags, but why not using this one? I mean, I would have preferred this one, right? Anyway, it's again, not a deal breaker. There's not one single thing that makes me not want to use this deck, but if you put everything together, the fact that I don't necessarily understand what I'm looking at. So the Lovers is Marassa Jumeaux, the Marassa twins. There's a lot of French, which I'm okay with. I speak French, so that's, you know, that helps as well. But apparently it doesn't help enough because let's have a look at the Devil card, okay? Because it's a really beautiful card. And one thing that I have to say, the art style is just absolutely freaking amazing. So I really love it. I love the fact that we do have some white borders. Let me just zoom in. Apologies for that. But for many of these cards, you will see that the images actually go beyond those borders, and it's almost as if they were erupting, they were exploding, and they spray all of their colors around. So I like that. I like that idea. But just to show you, so this is the Devil card. So let's just go to the Devil card here in the guidebook. Okay, so it's called Kaofu. The devil represents a creative passion that stems from the forces of the subconscious, that primal fire that fuels desire, but in its corruption can bring darkness and dependency. And so far so good, but that is something that is general. I mean, it's completely general, all the devils. It's not referred to this devil in particular. It symbolizes both our deepest desire and our darkest fears. And then you go on, it's the inverse of the Hierophant. This is interesting, but it's, again, not referred to this one in specific. Because a bridge and a transition instead of leading towards the higher spiritual peaks, it leads into the deep qualities of the human being. Okay, and then finally it starts talking about this card in specific. This card features Loa Kaofu, the negative counterpart or Petro, to Papa Legba, who appears in the Hierophant card. And then you start understanding a couple of things. Kaofu embodies the dark, ambiguous aspects of divine forces as is linked to conflicts, transformation, and chaos. He is often called upon for protection against negative influences, curses, and spells, or to seek revenge against enemies. Although Kaofu is a potent but dangerous entity, demands respect and caution from his followers. Engaging with his chaotic yet vibrant energy requires readiness to honor any commitments made to him. And then it goes back again to talk about the devil in general. So we basically have 3, 6, 8. We only have 8 lines that tell you a little bit about the reason why, that it doesn't actually tell you the reason why this particular character has been chosen to represent the devil in this deck. It does tell you around the devil, and it tells you that it is the opposite of the Hierophant, so it's the opposite of Papa Legba. I would have loved to have at least 2 pages telling me a bit more, or a lot more. I would have loved to have a lot more about this. 8 lines for me is not enough. When I look at this card, and if I pull it, I didn't work with this deck anyway, but if I did pull this card and I pulled the Devil card, my immediate, as a tarot reader for so many years, my immediate reaction would be to think about the keywords that I normally associate with the devil. However, I would stop myself immediately because it feels like I'm not doing it justice, because this one is a very specific character and I want to know more about this specific character in order for my reading to be more accurate with this deck. Otherwise, I'm just going to use another deck. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's probably just me. I probably need a lot more to feel comfortable, a lot more knowledge about something specific to feel comfortable about doing a reading using these characters. Maybe you just look at it and 8 lines is enough, because the concept is actually very beautiful, very, very interesting. You know, it's the opposite of the Hierophant, it's the opposite of Papa Legba. And so you relate it to that. So instead of the Hierophant, instead of leading towards the higher spiritual peaks, like the Hierophant does, this one leads into the deep qualities of the human being. Which deep qualities? Because we're talking about the devil here, and it feels like it's kind of the opposite, but I don't know. It's there's a lot of keywords here, but again, these ones are related to any kind of devil. So and you can say the same for a lot more, and I can assure you I have tried. I really have. It's a really beautiful deck, so of course I tried, but I don't feel like using it. It's a deck that I will not rehome because it's beautiful, I like it, and I'm proud to have this deck in my collection, but there was a reason why I actually got it, and it was because I really wanted to learn a lot more about this fantastic culture, and I cannot because it doesn't give me enough. And I know that I could study voodoo, of course I can, with books and everything, but I really wanted to have something about the way in which we can relate these specific characters to the meaning of tarot, the meaning of the card they represent. So it was a bit of a letdown for me. I probably set my expectations way too high. That was my fault. I didn't manage them well, fair enough. But I do think that, it could have been a fantastic deck for me. Again, I don't think that there's resources online, again, related to the deck. I know that there's probably thousands of websites that teach you how to study voodoo, but something related to this deck in specific, I haven't really found anything, and it would have been really, really interesting. So I don't really feel like reading with this deck. The next deck that I just don't feel called to use, and I really like it, and I'm gonna keep it, but it's such a pity because I've really wanted to learn more. This is called the Great Lakes Tarot by David Wilson, and let me tell you, this deck is just really beautiful, and it's based on let's say the landmarks and something very typical, the typical elements of everyday life that you can find in this specific geographic area, the Great Lakes. So I've been there, love it, absolutely love it. And I love this deck. As you can see, it's still in order because I just don't feel like using it. But it's beautiful. I mean, look at the Magician, it's just so beautiful. And the High Priestess with the Moon and the Starry Night and the Empress and the Emperor. And the Hierophant and the Lovers. I just don't know, the Chariot with the Dandelion, Strength. So I know that there is a website. I believe it's open source in the sense that just like, it reminds me a lot of what people have done with the Hayward Tarot, because it is based on the podcast Welcome to Night Vale. And so there's an open source file, like I assume an NX file, that you can download from online, and you can fill in according to what you know about the cards. And I believe that there's something very similar that they've done about the meanings or the references that you can find in these cards. And I downloaded the references and I had a look, you know, comparing the images to the references as well. Now there's another thing that I wanted to say. It is very peepish. It's beautiful. These are really beautiful illustrations, so I don't mind. But as you can see here, the Ace of Cups, the Two of Cups, the Three of Cups is not even 3 fish, but it's, you know, 1.5. And in here there's like the Four of Cups, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's not very clear the way this is sturgeon, right? I mean, I have no idea. I don't know nothing about fish, seafood in general. I just like it. But this looks like a sturgeon, and I could be wrong. But in any case, this is the Six of Cups. So I'm imagining that, and there probably are references. I'm imagining that the reason why this particular fish, the one that I know, let's go back to the sturgeon, is related to the Five of Cups somehow, but I don't know. And that really is the same principle for which I have a hesitance to use the spirit box, the Voodoo Tarot, because I don't know enough. And the Masuto ones, for example, is showing you these really gorgeous, beautiful flowers that I'm expecting, of course, you'll be able to find in the Great Lakes area. These are really beautiful. The Seven of Wands associated with this flower, or the Eight of Wands, and this is the Nine of Wands, and this is the Ten of Wands. Does that mean that, for example, this one, I don't know the name of it, but I think I know what plant this is, and it's one of those plants that you really see bending when there's a lot of wind, for example. Is that related to the Ten of Wands? Are you bending over, let's say, under the weight of too many burdens that you're carrying that they're not even for you to carry? Is there something there? I don't actually know, and I really don't like it. Or birds, let's not talk about you know, animals, because you guys know me. I really struggle. I know that this is a moose, okay, so is the moose related to the Two of Swords somehow? Is it because they need to migrate, maybe, and they need to decide where to go, but they don't always know? It's a bit of a gamble. I don't know. I wish I knew. And let me tell you, this is not a negative review of the deck. I love this deck. It's really beautiful. And I'm sure that it's also very insightful. It's a negative review on myself, as in I don't have the time, unfortunately, to gather the necessary knowledge to learn why the heron, I think it's a heron, represents the Three of Swords. Is it because maybe they have like 3 or 4 eggs and only one hatches? You see what I mean? I would love to understand this. This is a turtle, or a toad, or a duck, salamander, bat. So the Eight of Swords with the bat, why? Is that because they use the radar? So I don't want to read too much into it and going down in one direction that is absolutely not what the author meant. Or the otter with the Nine of Swords. Why is the otter a Nine of Swords? A kingfisher, a deer, an eagle, and falcon, owl, I don't even know, lynx. I know that this is a lynx. So I would love to know more about this deck. I know that there is this file. I have downloaded it. It doesn't give me that much. Or let's put it this way, it doesn't give me enough for me to be able to have a confident reading with this deck. And so I like it, I keep it, but I don't read with it because I don't know enough. Okay, so this is the most controversial one. I'm so sorry. I apologize in advance. I know that there's a lot of you that love this deck. In particular, I know one of you who considers this deck like her soulmate deck. And I get it. It's just that I personally I really spent hours and hours with this deck trying to understand how it relates to me. And I fail to see that. Again, it's my fault. It's the Lonely Dreamer Tarot by M. Waterspoon. This is the second edition. I'm not going to rehome it, and I know that this is also going to become one of those rare and hard to find decks. I can see, so this is based obviously on the artwork by Odonovan, and I know that it's really beautiful. I know the artistic value of this deck. I don't need to be convinced of that. It's just as a tarot deck, sorry, as a tarot deck, it just doesn't work for me. I just do not know how to relate. I can read it. This is not one of the like the Spirit Box or the Great Lakes Tarot. That's not the same issue here. We're not talking about the same impediment that I have because I don't have enough knowledge. I can read it. This is the Seven of Swords, of course. It is the Seven of Swords. It looks like the Seven of Swords. I can read it like the Seven of Swords. Does it resonate with me? No. It feels to me, or even the Three of Pentacles, I totally get it. There is a mastermind and the two that are discussing how to carry on his plans. And the Six of Pentacles, again, totally get it. And the Ten of Cups, totally get it. I also believe that this being a curated art deck, the work that has been done is fantastic. This is a great deck. The associations between the work of art that have been chosen to represent these specific cards is actually really, really strong. It's a strong bond. That is a very strong, let's say, vibes to the cards. So when you look at the Eight of Wands, for example, here, obviously the wands, these branches, these wands have to be added into the work of art. So obviously there's even the cups, sometimes you can see that or the pentacles here and so on and so forth, but it's not obtrusive. It's something that blends in. So I don't see, there's nothing wrong with this deck. It just doesn't resonate with me. And I tried so hard. I probably tried too hard. You know what I mean? And as a result of that now, I really don't feel like using it. Even the Star card, which is beautiful, this card doesn't resonate with me. And I'm really sorry because I know that there's a lot of people really loving this deck. I totally get it, as I said. I also pair it up with the Prophet Oracle. Which, artistically speaking, it really brings up the energy of this deck. But again, for me, it's just not working. And again, I will keep it because it's a collectible item, but I don't feel, I do not feel called to use it. So the next prompt is 3 decks in your collection you want to do a deep study with and why. You see what I mean? But it's very difficult for me to narrow it down because technically I want to study all of my decks. Unless it's an RWS clone, but with cats, for example. But I would still want to study that. Generally speaking, I always want to know the reason why the creator of the deck chose a specific image to represent that specific card. I am fascinated by motivation. You know, when you create art, there's a strong motivation behind it. And if I don't immediately understand it, I want to study, I want to do some research, I want to see what's behind it. But in any case, I've chosen 3 because these are, well, one of them is very recent and I just had a look at the guide. But let's talk about this one. So this is very recent. It's called the Batley Tarot and this is by Blue Angel. So I believe that you guys in the US may be able to get it now. It was released maybe a couple of months ago in Australia. I got it after I got back from Japan. So this is incredibly interesting, really, really mind-blowing my mind. Absolutely seduced by how bold the creator, Jake Batley, is and the way in which he sees tarot and the way in which he's created this deck. So don't discount this deck. Let me just show you the guidebook later, 1 second. Don't discount this deck, please, because I know that it's very minimalist. It's black and white. And, people went, and even myself, I would have said, you know what, I'm not entirely sure about this deck. It's black and white. It's not cheap, by the way, not cheap at all. Really good cardstock anyway, and you know the production value is there, so it's actually good product value, but generally speaking, as a mass market deck is not cheap. But look at the images, it's actually really beautiful. I know that it's difficult to accept, you know, that a deck in black and white can be so rich and intense and powerful, but I promise you this is all and more. This is the star card and it's just so gorgeous. I really love this star card. I really do. And I don't know whether it's because of the vibes, because after all, you know, the symbols are there. It's pretty common in the representations. But I just really, really love it so much. And it's not just, okay, when it comes to the majors, we've seen them. When it comes to the minors, I really have to study. That's one of the reasons why I immediately thought I really want to study this deck. Because as you can see here, there's so many associations from alchemy to astrology to, I'm guessing, probably also numerology and Kabbalah. So it is really, really interesting, and I cannot wait to just dive deeply into the meaning of these cards, even though there might be some things that I disagree with. For example, there is something that I wanted to show you, because the guidebook is one of the main reasons why I actually got this deck. This guidebook is fantastic, but there is something to be said. So it tells you so much. It's a source of knowledge. I just wanted to point out that there's a swap here that not everyone agrees with. The jury's still out for me. I reserve judgment. I just really want to understand what the motivation was and what the explanation is. And thank you, Angie, from A Cup of Tarot. You told me to check out Jake Batley's YouTube channel, because he actually explains some of his really, really bold choices behind the creation of this deck. One thing that I honestly don't think that I'm accepting, but I am open to understand, is the swapping between the alchemical elements of fire and air. So generally speaking, we all know that the suit of wands reflects the alchemical element of fire. Wands, you can rename them as baton. In this deck, they're renamed as baton. And the suit of swords is related to the alchemical element of air. But in here, they're swapped. So cups is still water, and coins or pentacles are still earth. Nothing strange there. But when it comes to swords, it's referring to fire as an alchemical element. And when it comes to batons, it's referring to air. There's... okay, if it were just that, that's already something that really makes me think, and I really want to dive deeper and understand why he did that. But there's a consequence to that. You cannot just swap alchemical elements in the suits like that, because it's a domino effect. There's a number of things that come out after that, and they all bring about a different way to interpret the cards. So I'm gonna have to pretend that I know nothing about tarot and look into this book and understand the reason behind that. So I'm really, really excited about this, because I'm not saying that at the end I will be converted. I'm really not going to read swords as fire. It feels wrong to even say that. But if I get to the point of understanding Jake Batley's point of view, then I'll be happy. You know what I mean? So I really want to study this, and I want to understand everything that is related to this deck. And other than that, it's a really interesting book. I highly recommend it as a guidebook to a tarot. Another deck that I really look forward to study is the Tomar Tarot by Deborah Allen, Debs. So this is an indie deck. Debs is based in the UK. I do not know at present whether she will ship to the US or not. Please check with her. She's lovely, really lovely. And if you want to get in touch with her, there's a I believe there's a somewhere, if I Okay, so these are Deb's details, upside down. So you can contact Deb's at tarotmagicandreason@gmail.com. I highly recommend you get in touch with her because maybe she's got a solution to the tariffs. I have absolutely no idea. I know that there's a lot, and I was talking to another creator 2 days ago, and also based in the UK, and he was really upset because it was like 95% of my sales are in the US, and this means that for months I won't be able to sell my products to Americans, and this is really disrupting my business. So I completely understand. There are other solutions. I know that DHL, for example, is still going, but I have no idea the cost. I don't know. So in any case, get in touch with Debs if you are interested in this deck, because she might have a solution. Maybe not, but you never know. The reason why I want to study this deck, and I've talked about it when I first showed it on my channel, is because of the associations that we can see here in the cards, which is something that I love. I love reading associations. One of my favorite books of all times is Deborah Lipp's Tarot Associations. I believe tarot combination or association, I forgot. But the concept is that we can actually read 2 or more cards together to represent one concept. And I really love that. I love that idea. And it's basically the way I read. I mean, I can read cards one by one, and that's generally the easier way to read them. But for me, you need to go beyond that. And that sometimes tells you the difference between a beginner and an intermediate or even an advanced tarot reader, that you actually feel the message coming out of all of the cards together, and you see how this is developed by the associations between the cards. So the Fool is associated to the World card, for example. The Magician is associated to the Sun and the Empress. The High Priestess is associated to the Magician. So there's all of these associations that I really love, and there is a guidebook that can be downloaded online. So obviously I will be doing a lot of research based on that. And other than that, I actually really like this deck. I like the colors. I like the fact that it's got these 3 colors: this cream color, the golden color, and the black. And with all of these, you gain a depth of field. There's a lot to read in this card. They're actually quite rich when it comes to the cards themselves. There's only maybe a few cards where there's empty spaces, but other than that, as you can see, there's a lot going on in the cards, and I really like that. I appreciate that. So it's going to be super duper interesting to learn how to read this deck and understanding all of the associations. For example, in the minors here, as you can see, there's also associations with planets and zodiac signs. So Mercury, Sagittarius, Saturn and Sagittarius, and then we're moving on to the Ace of Cups. There's also, obviously, there is a reference to the alchemical element of water. So there's a lot that can be seen and learned and discussed and talk about when you look at these cards because of all of these associations. I think it's one of those decks that after you learn how to use it properly, it gives you this wider knowledge on tarot. And that's always something that I will always look out for. I will always seek, because it's, there's only so many books that you can study in your career as a tarot reader. Sometimes you really need a deck to teach you something, and this is one of them. And the last one for this prompt is obviously the Unveiled Tarot by Jessie Lonergan. This is released by Liminal 11 or Sterling Ethos, depending on the distributor in your country. This one is an absolute gem of a deck. And it's also ironically one of those decks that I would not have even considered if I hadn't been curious, because I saw that someone was giving it a 5-star, and I was like, oh, okay, well, it's just it's probably just a one of those decks, that it's a novelty deck, I thought at the beginning. And then I looked at it and I see some of the cards, and I was like, oh my god, what is going on in this deck? It's so amazing. And ever since then, I've never stopped using this deck. I never stopped. Look at the mob card. I mean, wow. I never stopped using it. I never stop. This resonates so much. And can I just say something? It's a PC that the guidebook doesn't tell you. I mean, as you can see here, it's tiny. I would have loved a companion book to this deck. It's not completely for nothing. Like it does have a very small font, so there's a little bit more than what you would expect, you know, when it comes to the information. But I would have loved to have a lot more, like 3-4 pages for each and every card, because and for the minor arcana is even less. As you can see, it's just 1 paragraph for each and every card, which is really a pity. And I don't know whether I want to write it myself. I would love to write like a dissertation, or at least, let's say, a list of all of the things that I associate to each and every one of these cards that don't necessarily come from the guidebook, but I feel are reflected in the cards. So for example, the Queen of Swords, generally speaking, we talk about the Queen of Swords as the archetype of the judge, because she is, he, they are the persons that they understand the nuances of the grey, but they live by black and white. They appreciate, let's say, feelings, but they're very constantly driven by sense of justice. So it is an incredibly powerful card to me. It's an incredibly powerful archetype. It is my significator, and I really love the nuances that many decks give to this Queen of Swords, but this is the best one ever. Why? Because in a tarot deck that is called the Unveiled Tarot, okay, this is the name of the deck, the Unveiled Tarot, the only character that is covered by a veil is the Queen of Swords. I love that idea because it's a choice. It's a deliberate choice. This is saying the Queen of Swords sees through all the bullshit because it's true, it's part of the archetype, but chooses the veil, chooses to see things through a different set of eyes, a different filter. A veil is a way to create a buffer zone between everything that is truth, that is true and real in front of her, and her way to relate to what is in front of her. I love this. I love this so much. And you know, every single one of these cards, I honestly think that there's only 1 or 2 that kind of miss the mark for me. But other than that, every single one of them. And look at this 4 of Cups. I always say this, but I've been in this situation more times than I would care to admit. And so this is obviously, it's a character that is in an airport, sorry. You can see that there's the symbol of the airport here. There's people waiting in line, there's people with suitcases, there's people, you know, drinking something, and so on and so forth. This is the 4 of Cups. When you look at what's inside the frame here, the way in which this character is really literally struggling to just stay afloat and just breathe in, that is such a powerful way to depict the 4 of Cups. It's probably a bit too melodramatic, if you know what I mean, because the 4 of Cups to me is, generally speaking, just the idea that you have a lot of resources in front of you and everything is on offer, but you don't necessarily want to decide because it's you. There's something wrong with you, not with the stuff that is on offer to you. If you watch Netflix and you don't know what to watch and you spend 1 hour going from trailer to trailer and you don't know what to pick at the end, that's a 4 of Cups. Obviously, it's a very whimsical 4 of Cups because, you know, nothing happens if you can't choose something on Netflix. And this is actually melodramatic. So maybe something in between, but I love it. I love the way in which it has been represented here. And the Hermit, you know, alone in the crowd. I could go on for hours looking at all of these cards, and I just love this deck so much. It's, look at this full card. It's probably one of my favorite decks of all times when it comes to not necessarily the aesthetics, because, yeah, okay, I mean, I don't mind the aesthetics, it's fine, but you know what I mean? It's not the Botan Tarot by Miyako-san, you know, or the Majestic Earth. It's not as objectively beautiful and artistic as those decks, but this is a freaking amazing deck. You know, the Magician, that this is a movie set, and you see that because there's the mark on the spot on the floor when you need to stay. And you can see that because someone is behind the scenes here, behind the curtains here, and you know, they're preparing the scenes for the next filming. I just really love this so much, and I cannot stop using this deck. And using it, I notice the more I use it, the more I understand it. So that using it for me is actually part of studying it. And we finally come to the last prompt. So the last 3 decks, we talked about 3 decks you want to use before the end of the year. And because, well, next week, I will post this video on the 1st of September. So I feel allowed to start buying Halloween decorations from the 1st of September, okay? Up there, I said it, I'm gonna start buying Halloween stuff from the 1st of September. For me, Halloween, just one day? No, it cannot be just one day. It needs to be at least 3 months. Okay, so give me September, give me October, and give me November, and then I'm happy. So, I'm also a bit of a liar because I will not refrain myself from buying anything related to Halloween until the 1st of September because I've already bought something referring to Halloween, as you can see here. I'm gonna show you. Look at this, the Grim Reaper. Look how cute these are. I just love them so much. I found them at Daiso, which is a Japanese store here in Sydney. There's a few. Look at this one, this is so cute. And 2 more. So obviously I needed a kitty cat with a pumpkin. I mean, come on. And this one, which is, you know, the zombie hand with the crow on top. Absolutely gorgeous. So these are the first things that I'm buying, and yes, at the time of filming, at the time of buying, we're still in August. Mea culpa, okay, my fault, but come on, these are so cute. So, in any case, the decks that I want to use before the end of the year, of course, will be scary decks, because I cannot wait. And last year, I dedicated the whole month of October to Spooktober. So every single video that I posted, apart from the videos from my members, have been focusing around scary decks. And so I just want to really start using these 3 first. I will wait for October, probably. So this one is the Soul Splash Tarot. I like it so much. It's not a good reader, let me just tell you. And I don't mean it in a negative way. It's just that you need to use your knowledge of the RWS, because it's not necessarily visually leading you to knowing the interpretation of the card. So it is, however, incredibly dark, but the kind of manga dark, just really love it so much. Oh, look at this Magician. I know. I've been to the manga museum in Kyoto. It was one of the most poignant emotional experiences of the whole 5 weeks in Japan, because I grew up watching Japanese manga like every other Italian person. You can ask any Italian and they will tell you, especially if they're 40 and older, 40 years old and older. Look at the Wheel of Fortune. So I just love the eyes, I love the teeth. I just love this deck so much. It is dark and creepy and fantastic, as in, you know, fantasy like, and really like this one, for example, this dark art, which I really love. If you like horror books, Stephen Graham Jones, one of my favorite authors, horror authors of all times, is just absolutely freaking awesome. My favorite book is My Heart is a Chainsaw, and I also really love the sequel, Don't Fear the Reaper. But also, I was a teenage slasher. Oh my god! I mean, it's basically the story told through the eyes of the actual slasher, and it's just really amazing. And this one reminds me of My Heart is a Chainsaw, because there is, I'm not gonna spoil anything for you, but there is, it's set around a location that has a lake, and there is a legend that relates to the lake, and this reminds me of that, like 100%. So I just love this deck so much. So I would just try and stop gushing for a second, but look at this anxiety card. I mean, I know, and be yourself. And I know it's not for everyone. I know it's, you know, a lot of people will say you're crazy. A lot of people will say I really don't like it. As I said earlier, not necessarily an RWS clone, even though it is the way I read it. But it doesn't necessarily lead you, as I said, visually to the interpretation. I mean, this is the Two of Swords. Yeah, I get it. There is a hand covering, you know, muting the character here. But is that related to the Two of Swords? It could be. Or, you know, the Three of Swords or the Four of Swords, even this Four of Swords, for example. Yeah, perhaps this person is really tired. There's a smudge on the lipstick here. You can work with it, but it's not an RWS clone in the sense that it doesn't, if you're a beginner, reading with this deck could be a bit of an issue. So I don't necessarily recommend it for beginners. Let me just show you the Queen of Swords, which I really like because it's so beautiful and sensual at the same time, but it's got scars and, wow, and a katana, obviously. So the Suit of Cups, of course, the Six of Cups. I told myself that I should have stopped gushing and I should really stop it, but I just can't because I just love it so much. Definitely one of my favorite decks for Halloween. And obviously, continuing the same theme, there's another deck that I really cannot wait to use, and it's the Horror Tarot. This is an Insight Edition deck. Ironically though, I think it's okay. Like, obviously there's some minors that make me go, but it's not the worst that I've seen by an Insight Edition. And this is from, I believe, last year, although I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's older than a year. And I actually really love this kind of a vibes that it gives with the blood red borders, which I think are really cool. So the only thing that I have to say about this deck is that unfortunately I personally, even by wearing my reading glasses, I really struggle to see the title here. It's easy, obviously this is the Nine of Swords. I would have known even without reading the title, but it's not always that easy. So because it's in red, basically it's red foil, as you can see, on black background, it's not that easy. So the Queen of Pentacles, for example. See, for example, this is the Queen of Pentacles. This I would not have known. I would have known that it was a queen, but not necessarily the Queen of Pentacles. So not all of the cards are easy. This is the Hierophant, the Ten of Swords. Look at this deck. Look at how beautiful it is. I just love it so much. Look at the Six of Swords. Isn't it just gorgeous with this contrast with the colors? Really love this deck. This is the Star card with the Ouija board. I mean, wow. And you know, the Tower, of course, reminds me of Wednesday. I'm watching Wednesday, of course. It's really YA, but I actually like it. And there's just one thing that I don't understand. Did you guys watch it? So I know that it's Catherine Zeta-Jones, but she's done something because she doesn't look like Morticia, Wednesday's mom, is played by the actress Catherine Zeta-Jones in both Wednesday, the first season and the second season. But she looks totally different. And at the beginning, I thought that it wasn't her. I thought, oh, they changed the actress. That's a pity because I really like Catherine Zeta-Jones. And then I saw in the credits that it's still her. And I don't know, she must have done, maybe she's lost a lot of weight. Maybe that's it. There's a lot of actors that are losing a lot of weight recently. So as you can see, some of these cards are a bit peepish. I mean, this is the Three of Pentacles, for example, as you can see. It's a bit peepish, I guess, but I'm okay with it. I mean, I can put up with maybe, say, 5 or 6 cards being a little bit peepish when every other card is so gorgeous and so beautiful. And also really, like, it really reflects well on the meaning of the card when it comes to tarot and reading this deck. I just really love it so much, and I cannot wait. This again looks like the hide from, again, Wednesday. So this is, okay, officially this is my Wednesday deck. I'm gonna call it my Wednesday deck. And last but not least, I have to zoom out because this is a big box. So this is the Gothic Literature Tarot. I will have to say, this is by Syrian Shadow, by the way. This was a reward from a Kickstarter campaign from 1.5 years ago. And this is just absolutely gorgeous. This is everything that I've always wanted. It relates to horror narrative, you know, basically horror fiction. It refers to a lot of really beloved monsters from the horror culture. But it's also a kind of a darker deck. Let me just show you. But first I just wanted to show you the book, or companion book. So this is really interesting because obviously here you do have a little bit of information when it comes to astrology, for example, but also alchemy, as you can see, and the association with the cards. Because there is a renaming to the minors, we see torches and chalices. So torches obviously is fire, so what we would call wands. Chalices is water with the cups. And then we got ravens associated with the element of air. So normally what we call swords and skulls for the element of earth. And let's say it's not as much information as I've shown you earlier for the Badley Tarot, or as much as you have in Ian Daniels' The Vampire Tarot, but it is still really good, I believe. And it talks about the authors. So these are the authors of the characters that then have been inspiring the art style in the cards. So you can read about all of these, and some of these are my favorite by far. Then there's a couple of spreads here that you can use that are specific to this deck. And then it starts talking about the cards. So let me just show you the cards themselves. So these are really, really beautiful. By the way, this is a very soft linen. At first I thought it was almost a rose petal because that's the feel, but it's actually linen. So it's got all of the advantages of the softness of the softness and the tactile feel of the rose petal, but it gives you all of the advantages of the linen cardstock as well. As you can see, you can find out the deck. Had it been just rose petal, it would have been not that easy. So it's gilded in silver, which is really nice. And let me just zoom in even further so I can show you the cards. So as you can see, there's a lot of darkness, a lot of also fog. Let's say the element of fog is almost as if it were a protagonist in these drawings, in this art style. I personally really love it. It's one of those decks that I would probably use together with my Tarot Z and Tarot V by Alejandro Colucci, because those two are my favorites. But also I'm thinking about using it together with the Gothic Tarot of Vampire, and another one which is the name, I forgot the name. I think it's just the Gothic Tarot, but I could be wrong. But in any case, these decks, they really bond. When you use them together, they just give you an incredible experience, I can assure you 100%. I don't even need to use oracle decks. I do have a couple of oracle decks. One is called Shadow Myth Oracle, and it's an independent producer, but the prices are really excellent. So if you contact them, they have Shadow Myth cards, I think it's called, an Instagram account, and you can contact them through that. That's what I did to get their decks. They can also be used as a game, for example. So I use those in combination with these decks that I've ended up said, because I really, really love the vibes, and I think that they pair up really nicely. But I don't necessarily need to use an oracle deck, because it feels these cards really are very eloquent. There is definitely conversation going on here, and they look absolutely amazing. So really, really loving this deck. And I cannot wait to start using it for the Spooktober season. So that was it for the tag for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.